Sports fans, what's going on? Welcome to another edition of Field Vision, brought to you by War Room Sports in conjunction with Sports Kings. I'm your host. My name is Jimmy at JW The Blueprint. At the round table, I got my brother B. Austin. What's going on?
Ladies, look below. The love below. At me.
Dev, War Room Sports. What's going on?
11-5.
Okay,
How?
you believe it now. Got a
No.
quarterback. Frank from the Sports Dash Kings. What's good, Frank?
I just hope if I can't be successful in life, at least maybe I can be Matt Flynn.
This is true.
True.
Fred, what's going on? Fred Purdue is back in the building.
It's heavy in the games, people. I'm here with you guys, and I gotta say, man, Jimmy, can I just say the Patriots are gonna go all the way at this point? Come on.
Oh, man.
Why?
Are you serious?
Why would you say
Have you
that?
seen that defense?
I can't wait for 2 weeks till
They
we
haven't
spoke.
seen that
Never mind.
defense.
Never mind. It's Bronco gang all day. With that being said, we had a lot of exciting games last week.
That's where I live.
Eagles Avenue, huh?
Yeah,
Let's talk
nickname
about
it.
this, gentlemen. The 49ers and Panthers had an old NFC East type game. You know, they were putting up baseball scores, but nonetheless, the Panthers prevailed and won that game. So people are wondering, do the Panthers have a legitimate shot at catching the Saints, and are they for real with that defense they have? I'll start with you, Frank. What do you think about the Panthers? Because I know that you said in the beginning of the season that they were sneaky good.
Yeah, I picked them as my 6th seed, you know, my preseason predictions, and a lot of people gave me some grief about that. I definitely think they're for real. I didn't think the defense was this good. I knew they had a good front seven, but I didn't know they had this dominant of defense. I don't think they catch New Orleans because I just think New Orleans is a very good team. I don't think that's a slight on the Panthers. But I definitely think they're for real. Cam Newton being consistent, and now they got Jonathan Stewart back. I think they need to be careful because that was always the thing in the past that kind of got them where like everybody's getting 8 carries. Like you need to pick a guy and go with him at some point.
I still think their offense at times can be a little bit conservative. In terms of talking about the Saints and the Panthers, they're 2 games behind them, and they haven't played them yet, right?
I think it's only 1 game. I think the Saints are 7-2, the Panthers are 6-3, and they still got 2 games left.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. I forgot the Patriots got that lucky win against the Saints, so you're right.
They kind of have a log jam in the backfield now, with Jonathan Stewart being back because Mike Tolbert did some good things while he was out. You know, he gets a lot of passes out of the backfield. He gets all the goal line carries.
Yes,
So they have 3 backs now that they could lean on. But like Frank said, sometimes that could be too much because they might be overthinking some situations where they need to just give somebody the ball and go, and they're wondering who the personnel should be on every single play.
You
So.
gotta
Mike
root for
Tolbert
Mike
is the best
Tolbert.
out of shape running back in the league. Yeah.
Mike Tolbert is as wide as he is tall.
Nice, though.
But
He's
he's
nice.
nice though.
He
He's
is
great
nice.
tackle. He runs
Come on,
hard.
yo.
Like
we
he's
root for
nice
all.
though.
We root for all fat men in a position to do good.
Yes, sir.
Yo, shout out to Sebastian Janikowski. Yo, Fred, what do you think about Carolina?
This defense is for real. Cam Newton's coming around. I'm surprised. I really wasn't sold on Cam, but I can't really. I want to see a little more, but this team looks for real. And with the NFC being so, I won't say they're weak, but it's not that great. It's easy pickings right now. So this team has a good chance, and I would not want to play them in the playoffs.
Yeah, your
You know what,
Patriots are
though,
going to
guys?
see some more on Monday. They're going to see some more Cam.
I'm not as sold on Cam Newton's consistency as everybody else seems to be. I think
Don't
the
throw me
difference
into
between
everybody.
this year and the last 2 years is they aren't leaning on Cam to do every single thing to make this offense do anything successful. He still has a little bit of a touch problem. You know what I'm saying? A dude
Oh my
could be
God!
three
Yeah, let's not get-
yards
We
in
talked
front of
about-
him.
we-
Because
Yeah, we
he
talked
has a
about
hand
this the
cannon.
other day.
Yeah, he has a hand cannon, and he doesn't know how to
He doesn't know
tone
how
it down when a guy is
Yo.
like 2 feet in
No
front of him,
Yeah,
My man
touch.
throws, he
destroying
throws
people's
80
chests.
mile an hour screen passes. Like, yo, it doesn't matter how close you are. He puts everything into every pass.
Right.
Like, when he misses a receiver, it's going high, and like, yo, he's just out of control.
Going
But
high.
I think
Wide and fast.
Yeah,
I don't-
let's
I
not
don't
get it
wanna-
twisted either
I
because
don't
he
wanna
was
make
2
it
for
sound
11. He was 2 for 11 with 13 yards at like halftime of that game. So let's not. I mean, I'm not acting like Cam Newton blew the house. You know,
his
blew the house.
consistency is the problem. But I'm telling you, from watching a lot of Carolina games due to fantasy football, which I hate, by the way, I noticed he gets a lot of drops, even by guys like Steve Smith. To me, is having an off season. He's dropping everything. He gets tons of drops. LaFell drops everything. Like their most consistent receiver is like Teddy Ginn at this point. The rest of those guys got
too.
He drops everything too.
That's my point. And that's my point. But the thing is, he gets a lot of drops.
Receiver like he doesn't have any hands.
Yeah.
And their coach is still gets very conservative.
Right?
Yeah, he's very conservative at times, and it doesn't give him a chance to like really get in the groove. And I guess when you have a defense like that, you want to like pretty much lean on them, and that's what they're doing.
I'm gonna say that we are suffering from the current state of society, which is a culture of immediacy. Here's what's going on in Carolina. You're seeing the maturation of Cam. He is getting better. He's not quite there yet. He's still got a lot of chinks in his armor. He's not consistent, but he's definitely the best young mobile quarterback that I've seen drafted in the last 3 years, with the exception of Andrew Luck. Shots fired, but they've got some weaknesses. Okay, so the defense that we love, front seven, amazing. Back line still has some questionables back there. Their secondary is mediocre. It's not bad, but it's not really good. But when you have a great front seven, that takes a lot of the pressure off of them. So I'm wondering, in a game where Carolina is a good team, but they're not a complete team. So in a game where the unit that you lean on the most may not show up the way you're used to it showing up, then how does that expose and put pressure on the other units? Now, the offense, I just don't believe that the offense can score with the marquee teams the way the marquee teams score. I don't see Carolina consistently putting up over 30 points. So they have to lean on the defense to hold a high-powered offense to low point totals. And I think that works most of the time. But when playoff time comes around, should they make the playoffs, they're going to run into a buzzsaw, and it's going to be a problem. Because
I think the other good thing for them.
What you got against Captain Munnerly?
I love Captain Munnerly. I love what he's done. Yo, Captain Munnerly is my homie.
He has the best old man name in the league, man.
My man was drafted in the 9th round, and they only have 7 rounds.
I will say, you have in the playoffs, you have to take your running game with you. And with this team, they have a decent enough running game that they can go on the road anywhere. And their defense is good enough to go on the road anywhere. So
I agree with that. That's the thing about the playoffs.
This team
defense and running games travel well. You're right about that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the other good thing for them too, is that in the NFC with the Packers, rest in peace to the Green Bay Packers and Scott Tolzien at quarterback, you don't really have a solidified 2 seed.
Scott Tolzien is a baller.
Yeah, he was a baller in Wisconsin.
I mean, think about that. Seattle's the legitimate 1 seed, right?
Everybody's Seattle's definitely the 1 seed.
2 seed. They just beat San Fran in San Fran.
Right. So then they have those 2 games against the Saints. If they can win those 2 games, basically they have their own destiny to the 2 seed. And then once you get that, I mean, all bets are off. You know what I mean?
Quick question, gentlemen. Quick question for all
right here.
How much is them beating San Francisco a matter of the regression of their quarterback? Like, how much of that is San Francisco's Kaepernick falling a little bit?
What happened to Cat?
Damn.
Can I expound on that a little bit?
Kaepernick is supposed to be one of the all-time greats according to Jones, right?
Go ahead,
Fred.
Garbage.
Everybody jumped on the Kaepernick bandwagon after 10 games. And you saw what he did in the Super Bowl, and everybody expected him to make this big progression.
Talk to him, Fred.
You got Harbaugh as his head coach. On top of all that, he's supposed to make this big jump. But in retrospect, he hasn't played a full season of games really yet. He's just gotten. So you can't expect him to be as this great quarterback. And at the end of the day, that team's a running team. They have to be physical with you, play defense. They aren't supposed to be relying on Kaepernick to be throwing the ball around a lot.
It's just like you just said, the culture of immediacy. I mean, Kaepernick has
a
few more starts than Nick Foles. He really.
He had to find a way to give Nick Foles a shout out, man.
So what you're saying is that he's not better than Nick Foles.
I won't go that far. But I will say Nick
respect.
Foles is comfortable in that offense mainly because of what he did in college. They ran a similar offense at Arizona. So
No respect for all-time passing records, man. No respect.
I mean, Nick Foles isn't Colin Kaepernick athletically, but as a passer, I think he's probably better.
Nick Foles isn't Michael Vick athletically, but what does athleticism mean at that position, really?
I'm not getting to this.
At the end of the day,
I'm not getting this conversation right now, man.
Nope.
That's something else. That's something else that hasn't worked in the playoffs. Running.
B. Austin is just setting the pavement to take a shot at more black quarterbacks. That's all that's going on.
Can I just say?
He's just setting the ground.
Yeah, that's the one. And somehow, Uncle Ruckus. B. Austin is also just trying to find a way.
Oh man, listen, man. I don't appreciate that, man. I love Warren Moon. Shout out to Steve McNair. Randall Cunningham is my homie. I love black quarterbacks.
Yeah. The last dual threat quarterback to win a Super Bowl.
Fran Tarkenton? Oh no, he didn't win a Super Bowl.
John Elway and Steve Young, and they were old and non-running quarterbacks.
I'm about to say John Elway wasn't really dual threat at the time he won.
Exactly, that's my point.
He was dual threat throughout his career.
Well, Fred. What you don't understand is John Elway also was the greatest quarterback to ever play football, period, at any level. But that's neither here nor there.
In Denver.
Whatever. Life. But anyway, listen. The Panthers, man, we'll see what happens as time goes on. They have a legitimate shot because the NFC is what it is. But there's also a bigger story which does not seem to be going away in the NFL. And if you guys watch Monday Night Football, the Miami Dolphins gave Tampa Bay their first win. And, but that wasn't the story of the game. Watching that game, they talked about one topic which is not going away anytime soon, and that's the Richie Incognito situation. We didn't really talk about it last week, but at this point, we have to talk about it. I want to get you guys' opinion on this. I'm going to start with you, Fred.
That running game went away.
You're down in that area, man. So what's the tone down there in Florida?
Hashtag free Richie Incognito.
Exactly. Free Richie Incognito, no. It's just, there's so much. It's a balanced plate. You have one side of it. Oh, well, Richie Incognito, he was right for trying to toughen him up. And he's right for doing this and that. But then you have Jonathan Martin supporters that say, well, he doesn't deserve that. I'm kind of in the middle on it. I don't agree with the people that say Jonathan Martin's soft because he's educated, his parents are educated, and all of that. That has nothing to do with it.
I think he's soft because he left. It ain't got nothing to do with
it ain't got nothing to do with it. I think he's soft because he's soft.
Because he left his team. You left your team high and dry. Regardless, ultimately for me, I'm like this. Put them two dudes in a dark room, put some boxing gloves on, y'all box it out, and when y'all come out, hug it up, and let's move on.
That was what was supposed to happen. That's the right way to do things.
That's just me. But
that's what Jeff Ireland's going to get fired about, is what you just said.
The thing is, this stuff happens at every level of football, from high school to the NFL. It just happens in a different way.
See, this is
all right. Now,
thing.
Before you get your point, let me ask Fred a question, because Fred, you're a coach, right?
Yes.
All right, so now, even at your level, if you hear about a situation like this, what do you do as the coach? Because you got to know that their coach knew more than, he's living up. So what do you do?
For me, I simply, we sit these guys down and we talk to them. We bring in the parents, we talk to them, and we say, look, what are your issues? And we try to talk it out before it gets to that point where we're not realistically going to put them in a room and tell them box it out. But we're going to tell them, look, fix this issue. Y'all hug it up and everything. If you have to stay away from each other, stay away from each other. But we never encourage the hazing. We may say
they line up next to each other on every play.
I was going to ask you a question. I was going to say, have you ever told a player to toughen up another player? Don't incriminate yourself.
No, I've never done that.
Don't incriminate yourself.
He's like, don't answer that.
No, I live in the sun, guys. I live in the Sunshine State. We don't have to worry about it.
Too busy looking at the trees.
This is where this happened. This happened with the Dolphins.
Yes, and that's for the difference between the high school level and the NFL level is you have kids that have grown up together and played together their whole lives, compared to the
high school level.
Guys are coming from everywhere, different cultures. Richie Incognito's had all these problems dating back all the way to his days at Oregon.
Well,
so
first off, in Florida, the difference between the high school level and the professional level is the high school level is relevant. Dev, what were you getting ready to say, Dev?
Wow.
This whole situation is like when you're giving your opinions on this, you kind of got to be very careful because you don't want to villainize the quote unquote victim, but at the same time, he's not speaking, so really all we can do is speculate on the information that we have at this point. And it seemed like a situation where the more that comes out, the more, in my opinion, Richie Incognito doesn't seem like such a big problem in this thing, except for the fact, because, everybody's just going to concentrate on the fact that he used a racial slur in the message that everybody's putting out.
Or he sexually harassed a female.
So it's like, even if, the public, the masses are past the point of, okay, maybe he didn't really bully this dude. He has text messages to prove that this is how they spoke to each other all the time. We still need something to focus in on. So now it's the N-word. He still used that, so he's still a bad guy. I don't think anybody ever said Richie Incognito was a good guy, stemming from his days on past teams. So we already know that. Get that out of the way. But I think Jonathan Martin needs to hurry up and say something at least. Because I don't know if his relationship with Richie Incognito is, what Richie says. I think he needs to say something because everything out there is just speculation.
But I mean, if he's truly done and doesn't want anything to do with the situation, why should he even address it at all? Why does he care that the world hates Richie Incognito?
I think he should address it because the world not only hates Richie Incognito, but the tide has turned in the public opinion. Like I said, Richie Incognito at this point is only being vilified because he used the N-word in a lot of circles. But from the player's perspective, it seemed like he's getting more support than Jonathan Martin is, and Jonathan Martin is supposed to be the victim in this. So I think he really does need to speak out, at least let these guys know how it really affected him, because as far as what he's telling them through text message and everything, no, you guys weren't the problem. It's just the culture of football has had to get away. So, I mean, I think, dude, he needs to step up and be honest, man.
Here's my thing. My thing is, I don't think Richie Incognito wanted to play football, period. I think this was his way to get out of it.
Jonathan Martin. You mean Jonathan Martin?
I'm sorry. My apologies. You're right. Jonathan Martin.
I think Richie Incognito likes hitting people.
Yeah, I do too. But I think Jonathan Martin was trying to find a way to get out of football. So he found a way to get out of football and possibly have a huge lawsuit in his hands. He's the son of two attorneys, for one. So they're about to Olivia Pope this whole situation. He's going to come up and be able to walk away from the game and never have to do anything. And think about it. If he really doesn't care how the world sees him or Richie Incognito, the best thing is to not say anything at all. Eventually it'll blow over. Another scandal will happen.
But he
still won't care anymore.
But his attorney still keeps making statements, so that shows you right there that they care about something. But he hasn't come out and done that tell-all interview or anything. But every time somebody else says something that's making him look bad, his attorney comes out with a statement to kind of rebut what they're saying. So
but what I'm saying is
it's not him making the statement, and you of all people know, Jimmy, what they're doing is setting the stage for a proper legal defense. And that's why they're keeping him from making any statement. This case
is part of the conspiracy, man.
This is so complex. There's so many issues and so many topics and themes to take on with this whole incident. That's why I feel as though it'll never blow over, because there's so many layers to peel back on this. I agree, Jimmy. I actually agree. Probably 110% with what you're saying. I think dude did not want to play football, and this was an easy out that he has where he's plotted this. There's a strategy behind. This is his exit strategy. There's a strategy behind what he's doing, and he's up out of there, and he's going to have a come up financially because he's going to sue the league or he's going to sue the Dolphins, and he's going to make money. I think that Richie Incognito is a known dickhead and dirtbag. And I think that
family show, man.
But I think this is who he is, and this is a component of the NFL. You don't pay NFL linemen to be cuddly, nice, humane human beings, particularly within the confines of the locker room and the field where they play. That's not this side or this side of the game is very rarely, if ever, exposed to the public. And now we're looking at it, we're examining it, it's kind of ugly. But these are the conditions with which have been created to foster the sport of a professional sport of football and other professional sports. This is what goes on.
The question, though, is it time to change that?
No, you don't want it to change. You don't want it to change because you want the sport to be what it is, but you don't necessarily like, the process. So the process has never been revealed. It's the same thing with those that serve their country, on the front lines as
I was waiting for that
soldiers.
analogy. I was waiting for it.
Yeah, as soldiers or special forces operatives, we don't know what they go through, and it isn't necessarily revealed. We look at an end result, and that end result can be glorious and can achieve what the larger group of people want, but we don't want to see what they go through.
I guess the difference is that in looking at that analogy is now we're covering sports 24/7. We have access to locker rooms. We don't want to know what the special forces do, but I don't know about using that comparison or analogy when you talk about a football team at this point.
It's a great analogy, Jimmy, and I can go further and expand why.
I get the analogy, but what I'm saying is the difference is there isn't people paying to kind of like see the inner workings of the special forces.
Why aren't there? They're on display as much as a professional sports team. The only difference being national security prevents us from seeing a lot of what they go through. But if you turn on your television, there's more shows. There's more shows about special ops now than ever before. Why? Because we live in a society that consumes. Everybody's a reporter.
Transparency is.
And Jimmy, I will say
I get that, B. Austin, but also that's fictitious. That's entertainment. We're talking about sports entertainment now. Versus
no, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about real live shows that cover cases or situations where special operatives are involved. The comparison between sports
that's always been there. I mean, we can go back to the '60s. That's always been there. That component has always been there. But I'm talking about and using the analogy of this is what happens in the locker room. We don't want to know what happens in the locker room. We just want the entertainment. But I think it's different.
My point is that they're both brotherhoods. They're both brotherhoods of men. These are brotherhoods of men. That's a team environment, and special ops or military is a team environment. It's a brotherhood of men. And in that locker room, what goes on in that locker room, what goes on in the practice environment, it's very controlled as to what is exposed to the world. Now, as you say, because of the way media works and because of social media, everybody's a reporter. It's harder to control what gets out. And now something has gotten out that's ugly, but we see by the way his teammates are standing up what the true position is of most NFL players. Most NFL players don't have a problem with this.
That doesn't make it right.
I understand now.
But that's my point. It doesn't make it right, and most of them have rattled brains anyway. So,
you also understand why teams like the Patriots, teams like the 49ers, the Steelers, they don't want stuff like
Hard Knocks life. Hard Knocks life
into their locker room because stuff like this out, and you have that issue.
Hard Knocks life.
That is why you have that issue. Just knowing what I know, going in the NFL locker rooms, a lot of these guys they don't care. A lot of that stuff, it's almost like you're back in high school and you're making jokes about each other and somebody says the wrong thing. Yeah, y'all might not like each other for a few days, but at the end of the day, y'all gonna hug it up. Y'all gonna be like, "What? We cool, we cool." And at the end of the day, it's over.
Well, Fred, it's not that I disagree with that. And Frank, we'll get to you next. Let you speak on this, but you also have to realize that times have changed, and just because it happens doesn't mean it's right. I mean, a lot of us we don't mind it. We grew up in this kind of culture, but I mean, there's a lot of sensitive men out there these days, man. A lot of them listen to Drake.
I thought Brandon Marshall made a very profound point on the whole situation.
Brandon Marshall making profound points.
I know, because he
really in 2013
he had to remind everybody that mental health is really a thing, and none of us really know what Jonathan Martin is actually going through, and he knows about that firsthand because he has some mental issues. So he was saying that the culture needs to change because people have to be sensitive to what others are possibly going through and taking it seriously. obviously Jonathan Martin has something going on.
Yeah, and the thing is
mentally.
though, I know Frank, we keep skipping over you, but I just want to say one more thing. The thing is this though, if Jonathan Martin would have came in the next day and shot up the entire locker room, this whole thing would have been looked at different. But now that he walks away, he's a coward, he's this, that, and the third. We don't. No, he would have came back and laid everybody down. We wouldn't have been saying all these things. Why didn't he just walk away?
That's a bit of a red herring argument because you're going to one extreme.
Murder game down.
Absolutely, I am.
The better step would have been not necessarily, him walking away, but him confronting the issue behind closed doors, even.
Yeah, but everybody, see, but you're talking from, from a rational standpoint. We don't know, like Brandon Marshall said, his situation. He may not have been able to talk about this the way you want him to. You know what I mean? Yeah, so maybe walking away could have been the best thing for him. With that being said,
he doesn't need to play football.
Because, like Dev said, we don't know. That's the whole thing. We don't know. So what we're doing is speculating. But that could have been the best thing for him to do is to walk away, because he could have came there and laid everybody down. But Frank, before we get off this topic, what is your thoughts on this whole thing?
I mean, I don't have a whole lot to say. I agree with a lot of the points that you guys made. I think, like B. Austin said, it is such a complex issue. There's so many layers to it because there's the individual relationship between Incognito and Martin, then there's the cultural background. Is Richie Incognito a bad person? Yeah, probably, but how many people would have done what Richie Incognito did? How many people do what Richie Incognito did? They're just not exposed on the news every single day. And I think as fans, the main point I want to make that nobody made was I think as fans we kind of want our cake and want to have our cake and want to eat it too, you know what I mean? Where we want to see the big hits, we want to see these guys go out and be barbarians, but we don't want to see the product of what makes them that way.
But then we want to hug
right,
and be nice.
Right, we want them to play two-hand touch, and then we complain when we call it flag football, when everybody's just passing and we're playing two-hand touch, but somebody gets a little tough in the locker room, then we're all up in arms, but we want them to knock each other out and give each other concussions on the field. So I think it's it's a give and a take.
This is true.
Ultimately, it's gonna trickle down to other sports. I've already seen the Minnesota Timberwolves. They're already mixing all kinds of hazing. Shabazz Muhammad was told he needed to wear I think it was a Miley Cyrus book bag or something like that. And they said no, you can't do it. I'm like, I can understand when it comes to hazing. Carry the veterans pads. Wear a Miley Cyrus book bag.
The Pelicans didn't.
But when it comes to using
tickling dudes while they're naked on the floor,
stuff like that, that's not how. When you having to do something crazy and that's the thing. What people aren't saying also is Jonathan Martin also did a lot of the things Richie Incognito did to him. Where there was they would play a joke on the rookies where they would take their car, hide their keys, and act like nothing happened. Well, Jonathan Martin.
I definitely think that Jonathan Martin.
But
I think Jonathan Martin is the exception. I think Jonathan Martin is the exception to the average NFL player's mentality, personality-wise. But I think it's also on the Dolphins and Richie Incognito. When you have a guy like that, you need to rally around him instead of just singling him out and making him this, guy that you beat up on every day. I mean,
but they did say that they did that with everybody. They said Jonathan Martin. They said a few days before they did it to him, he was a part of the same prank where they got up from the lunch table and somebody else. Now, I'm not, like I said, I'm not making him a villain because of that, because everything he did could have just been an attempt to fit in.
Exactly.
Not really being himself, just trying to fit in to a culture that he doesn't like, and he finally just got fed up with the culture and said, I got to go, so... I respect. To be honest, I respect him for that. Whether you think he's right or wrong and how he handled it, but I respected him for being true to himself and knowing what he can and cannot handle. I think it takes a big person to do that in general.
I totally agree with you, and I feel as though if you know it's not for you, then you can walk away. But
and get paid.
The position that I see him taking is one where he's strategically saying, "Yo, I need this to turn into my check getting cut." Like I need
listen, man, don't knock the hustle, man.
No, I mean, but if either
and he probably won't have CTE like his teammates.
He won his alimony, man. Give him his alimony.
In the end, also you have to look at the fact that there's this big thing going on about not just in sports, but in just the world in general about bullying, and he's going to be possibly the figurehead of all of this at the end of it, because we can see grown-up adults are being bullied, kids are being bullied.
Dwight
His
Howard
parents
just
are
got
lawyers.
stripped
There's
20
gonna be
seconds left in the
some
game.
way that he's gonna be put on
Garbage.
some kind of a organization for against bullying, and that's gonna be big for him too. He's gonna be
Fred, I just want you to know, like, to me, I don't even understand what is bullying. Like, I never understood what it. I don't understand the concept of another human being, like, bullying me or picking.
I've always been a little guy, and I still can't comprehend.
I
bullying.
mean, I'm along the lines of what Antero Roll said.
They're bullied
If
down.
you're a 6'4", 315 to 320 pound grown man. If we got problems, you come to me or I come to you, and we can handle this. I'm not just gonna run.
If you're a bully, if you're a male, and this is not speaking to females because it's a universal problem, but no matter how large you are, no matter how strong, you still have cojones, eyes, and a mouth, so you can still get hit in those things. So I really think it's an equal playing field. So I just don't understand where bullying.
Let's not go off on this tangent.
Too far.
On that note,
I'm not anti-bullying. I think bullying builds character. Send me all the hate mail. With that being said, listen,
oh, you are gonna get killed in the car.
oh man.
all I'm saying is this. Listen, enough about the story, man. It's a very complex story.
Dwight
You
Howard
know,
garbage.
it's a lot of points to talk about in terms of.
Dwight Howard got bullied.
But listen, Dwight
Fatty
Howard
is
is
young.
also a microcosm of the current system in all the professional sports. They all listen to Drake. Now, listen, we got some good games coming up this week. So let's just give our picks on these games before we get out of here and see what everybody thinks. First game I'm going to start with. Matter of fact, I'm gonna save that game for later, Fred. Let's talk about the Broncos and Chiefs. My beloved Denver Broncos playing the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm going to start with you, B. Austin. Who do you have in that game?
I have the Chiefs.
Really?
Okay. Dev, who you got?
I've seen a few people go out on that limb. I actually have the Broncos winning, but it's one of those situations where I want to see the Chiefs win because they're the most disrespected 9-0 team I've ever seen in my life. I've been guilty of saying things like that in the past. There'll be a team on a run, and I'm like, well, they haven't played anybody. But I've come around to the fact now, like, that's not their fault. And you line 9 people up against them, 9 teams, and they knock 9 teams down. Whether or not that's going to bode well for them in the future when they start facing tougher opposition, that remains to be seen. But they're setting themselves up to even be in the mix later on when they meet those teams. So I think the Broncos are still going to win after saying all of that. But I would like to see the Chiefs. I would like to see the Chiefs win the game, and maybe get some semblance of respect from
FOH. Frank,
the
Frank, who you got?
out there.
Say Fred or Frank?
I said Frank. Who you got?
I got the Broncos. Dwayne Bowe's fortunate for 2 things. One, that he's playing the Denver Broncos this week, otherwise he'd be suspended. And more importantly, he has a coach that knows what it's like to be hungry at 2 o'clock in the morning. So that's why when he wanted Sonic,
Got you.
Andy
All right,
Reid
you
was
got the
like,
Broncos.
no worries. But I got the Broncos.
Okay, Fred, who you got?
Man, this was tough for me. I like the Broncos, but I got to go with the Chiefs. Peyton Manning can't move. And that offensive line has been shaky. Tom Holly, Justin Brewster, 2 guys out there like game. You have Eric Berry in the secondary. I know you have all of these weapons, but they aren't running all in. Give me the Chiefs.
I don't know what's going on.
Peyton Manning's giving you the rope-a-dope.
It sound like Fred over there vacuuming. But listen though, I'm of course going my beloved Denver Broncos, but I'm going to tell you one thing that worries me. Living in Philadelphia, I know how. No, that's not even that. Andy Reid coming off of bye weeks doesn't lose. Andy Reid is dangerous coming off of bye weeks because when he has 2 weeks to prepare for a team, outside of the Super Bowl when they cheated and watched the film and stole all those film,
No, he threw 4 picks.
I know, but we got to slander the Patriots because Fred's up here. But anyway,
True.
So that worries me, but I'm still going to take the Denver Broncos. With that being said, the next game I want to talk about is the San Fran New Orleans game. This is a big game in the NFC. I mean, over the next couple of weeks, you got like San Fran New Orleans, like Seattle New Orleans, San Fran Seattle. So it's going to be a lot of things decided in these next couple of weeks. But with this game right here, I just think New Orleans is on a roll. San Fran is struggling at the quarterback position, so I'm going to go with New Orleans. Fred, who you got?
Your.
Yo, Fred, I don't know what's going on with your sound. We're gonna come back to you, man. It sound like you just.
Yo,
I don't know what's going on over there, Fred. Fred, you all right over there, man?
Sound like you got a Sky page.
Sound like the machines are taking over.
Yo, we'll come back to you,
Sky
Fred.
page, Skynet.
Something wrong with your sound, Fred. I don't know what's going on. But Frank, who you got?
This game, for some reason, I really don't even know why I took the Niners. It's more of a gut feeling than anything else because I agree that New Orleans is on a roll, but I think the Niners team, they just have a prideful, tough team, and I think they're going to bounce back, kind of a desperation game.
Got you. Okay. Dev.
This game is in the Mercedes-Benz Dome. I'm going chalk with this one. I'm taking the Saints at home.
Got you. B. Austin.
Saints all day, every day. Red, blue.
50 Tyson.
I wear red, blue all day. Yo, Fred, you back, Fred?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I'm good.
You got bad earphones in? You trying to take them out or something?
He was looking for Sarah Connor.
Give me the
Born
Saints.
Identity.
Give me the Saints. Drew Brees is
You
on
taking
the
the
roll.
Saints?
Yeah, give me the Saints. I can't go with Colin Kaepernick right now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, no doubt.
You got-
All right.
you got
this
teammates.
This last game. I'm going to start with you, B. Austin. The Monday night game. Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers are playing the New England Patriots. Fred's Patriots. Who are you taking this game, B. Austin?
I actually picked Carolina to win this game in an upset.
Okay.
I picked I believe that at this point there's too much of a load and pressure on Tom Brady. He's playing with patchwork offense. The line is getting better, but he's playing with a patchwork offense. That defense is suspect, and it's just time for them to suffer an upset because they put too much on Brady's shoulders. Too many injuries.
Gotcha. Dev.
Yeah, I agree that there's a lot of load and pressure on Tom Brady, but on Monday night I feel that he's going to live up to that pressure, and I think they're going to beat the Panthers, and I think it'll be by double figures.
Damn, Frank.
Yeah, everything to me points to the Panthers winning this game, but I think if it was a Sunday 1:00 game, I would go with the Panthers. But the spotlight on Monday night, I think Tom Brady's going to have one of those patented FU games where he's yelling at people on 3rd and 7, like when they ran for 3 yards and he's throwing people to the sideline, one of those really games where you're like, why are you so emotional? What's going on right now? But yeah, I got Tom Brady.
And Frank,
he's screaming at his teammate, and they're talking about how fiery a leader he is. But if he was Des Bryant, never mind.
and he's going to be standing face to face with middle linebackers like, what?
Yeah.
Fred, I don't even know if I should really ask you this. You are a New England Patriots fan. You endorsed them cheating. So my question is, will you pick another team, or are you just going to go with your team?
I'm going to do this like they do it on signing day.
Uh-oh.
I got 3 hats here. See this hat?
All Patriots hats. That's probably all Patriots hats.
See this hat? Give me the Patriots. Let's go.
Lee Corso over here.
Can I ask both Fred Purdue, heavy in the game, and Jimmy Blueprint Williams, are you guys ever really going to pick against your team?
I have picked against my team.
No, I have done it in the past, B. Austin. Go back and check the records. I picked against my team.
Truthfully, B. Austin, who should Jimmy pick against his team against?
Yeah, that's a good
Yo,
one.
go back and look at our shows when Tim Tebow was at quarterback.
Oh, yeah, no, I know.
I would have picked against you, too.
He has a team where he could legitimately pick his team every week. Whether they win or lose, they have an opportunity to win every game. We don't.
When they had Tim Tebow, Jimmy is an agnostic. So if he was truly a believer in God, he's not going to pick against Tebow.
Hold on, though. After he won a couple games, though, I'm not gonna lie, I did pick him. I just started believing in magic. But with that being said, this game, believe it or not, Fred, I'm actually picking your New England Patriots, and it's kind of what what Frank and Dev talked about. It's the bright lights, but it's also a situation where I still think Carolina is going to be to their detriment. They still are too conservative on offense. I think Tom Brady's going to show off on Monday Night Football. And the Panthers, I just think that after having that big win, I think they may have a little letdown this week. They may start believing the press. They may start believing the press clippings, and they're going to get humbled.
I definitely think it's going to be a close game, though, because I think you can run on the Patriots, and that's what the Panthers do, especially without Vince Wilfork.
Run on them. You can run on them. You can pass on them.
Now, with all that being
10 or more.
I'm sort of like Dev. I actually want the Panthers to win this game, but believe it or not. But I just think that
ultimately, I think with the Patriots, Brady and his receivers are finally growing up a bit. If you want to, per se, even though they're rookie, you have two rookies. You have Julian, but when you have Gronk back, it takes a lot of those flaws and those other young receivers' games away because you're drawing coverage away up the middle of the field. And Gronk, even not 100%, the threat of him catching the ball in the red zone is huge.
It doesn't take their flaws away. It takes him. They just don't get the ball anymore.
Hold on, man. Let me ask you guys a question. Is it possible to have a trap game even though you're playing on Monday night?
Yes.
Yeah. I definitely think so.
This is easily a trap game for the Patriots, too.
That's another thing, too, because the following week they play the Broncos. So
just think about it.
They could easily overlook this team.
Jimmy, think about it. Because Monday night, I don't think the primetime scheduling is what it used to be. Because what did Carolina do last year to deserve a Monday night game this season? So who knew they were going to be 6-3 going into this game?
I also have been reading lately. I've read this in a couple different places that the players actually enjoy Sunday night more than Monday night. Yeah. And they're saying even fans do. The ratings are starting to shift where Sunday nights is now being considered the game, not how Monday night used to be.
Because it's basically like after a day of football, you get that dinner break, and then you get right back on the couch.
You have to look at how the NFL works now. You have with the concussions and all of the injuries. You have a Monday night. Players are already creatures of habit. Right. Players are creatures of habit. They hate playing Thursday night games. They hate playing Monday night.
I hate watching Thursday night games.
Thursday night games are just you can put any.
Except for when the Skins lose to the.
This should be the rule for Thursday night. If you have a below 500 record, you're on Thursday night. No questions asked. But really,
that's all.
But
that's also
season,
something else. Sunday night has a flexible schedule too, where they can cherry pick games.
Right.
But Thursday night this season they started something new where every team in the league has to play a Thursday night game.
And it's not. And
that's why we see so many bad games on Thursday night.
For me,
but that's one of the reasons.
For me, I just don't. For me, as a coach, regardless of what level, every player on every level says it. They hate being thrown out of their schedule because football players, basketball players, whatever, they're creatures of habit. And if you wake up every morning at whatever time and you do a certain routine every day, when you're thrown out of that routine, it completely screws you up. That's why traveling east to west and west to east really. The chances of you winning are very low.
Plus, you usually have 6 days.
The Redskins lost to the Vikings.
The bottom line is that it's just hilarious to watch Roger Goodell give a player safety speech when he wants guys to play a game after like 3 days rest. Then he's going to come out and tell you that he's all about player safety.
And 18 games. No, but
anyway, with that being said, I was just asking about the trap game because it could be considered a trap game for the Patriots. But it's like a part of me that says, all right, but you're on national TV. Can you really play in a trap game on national TV? But anyway, you guys said it's possible, so I'm going to go with you guys think it's possible. With that being said, this has been another episode of Field Vision. You can get all of our contact info in the description box below. As we always say, don't accept mediocrity. Be steadfast in the war against ignorance. We'll see you chumps on top.
11-5.
Big foe.
Yo.
Wait, it's the war room with 5 nights at the round table, 5 Philly